All right, everybody, welcome out to another episode of Windshield Time at Mountainland Supply. I'm Joey. I'm here, as always, with our CEO, Brandon Johnson. And we are joined by our producer, Spencer Shorts.
Hello.
And that's it.
Enough of that.
That's enough. Today, we're going to be talking about buying groups. So buying groups, many of you out there have probably heard of a co-op. A co-op is when a group or a community pools their money together so that they can buy larger portions of a supply. So like back in when I worked on our farm, we had a co-op, like Intermountain Farmers Association started as a co-op. Yep. And that was, everybody kind of brought their money together and then they could buy in bulk grain, supplies, that sort of thing. And then they would get a bigger discount on it. And at the end of the year, they'd get a dividend from it. So we as Mountainland Supply are a member of a buying group that functions kind of like a co-op. Today, it's named iMark. Brandon's smiling because sometimes it doesn't function, and we'll get to that.
No, I was going to say that there's a debate of whether or not we're a buying group or a co-op.
Oh, yeah.
So
I'm sure there is.
There's apparently a significant difference, which I'm still trying to figure it out, apparently.
I'm sure somebody has it in their mind of something. So we're a member of iMark, and then my iMark has subsidiaries that we're members of. One is Blue Hawk for HVAC supplies, and the other is LPG, Luxury Products Group.
iMark Plumbing?
Yeah, well, iMark Plumbing is the one that we're mainly a part of.
So Blue Hawk and iMark Plumbing
are
and
subsidiaries of iMark.
Then LPG is actually a subsidiary of iMark Plumbing.
iMark Plumbing.
Yeah.
So LPG is Luxury Products Groups, and that is showroom vendors for higher end faucets, and some of those higher end suppliers don't manufacture things that a normal plumber that's not building custom homes or designer homes would purchase. So that exists for our showrooms, and Brandon is on the board of directors for iMark, the big group. So that oversees iMark Plumbing and Blue Hawk and LPG. And then he's also on the board for iMark Plumbing, which oversees iMark Plumbing and LPG. So I hope you guys are already getting confused.
I know we need is there like a way that we can cut in a whiteboard?
Yeah, we're going to have some sort of flow chart. So we're just going to, a lot of people have heard kind of the word iMark, or they've seen it someplace, or they hear that we're gone or we're out of town at iMark, or they've heard in the past Omni. Yep. Omni is what iMark came from, or Omni became iMark.
Yep.
About 10 years ago. Yeah, 9-10 years ago. No, it'd be more like 7 or 8 years ago.
7 or 8, because I remember...
Because in Hawaii, that was the last time it was Omni.
That was Omni.
And that was 2016, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. So, yeah. Brandon is, like I said, serving on the board of directors, and that really helps us as a company to have exposure and influence with the rest of the industry. So, Brandon, why don't you kind of tell them how the board position for you works?
Yeah, so I've been on it all started actually with the iMark Plumbing Board. I was actually elected to that about 5 years ago. And you can serve for a 3-year term and then 2 terms, so 6 years total. Mm-hmm. And I'm going on my 5th year right now. And so that was kind of an interesting experience to be able to participate with that. And actually before that, I was asked to serve on a committee, and they have an audit and compensation committee. And so with my auditing background, they asked me hey, would you be willing to serve on this committee? So I did that for a year, and then the next year I actually got voted on to be on the board. And then I think I was 2 years into that, up here at the iMark group, which oversees the 3 different verticals. Each vertical can send up 3 representatives to go sit on that board. And so from the iMark Plumbing vertical, I was voted as a representative to go sit up there on that board. And so I've been doing that for, I think, 3 years, 2 or 3 years now. And so it's been it's been very eye-opening for me. Interesting. Yeah, to be able to see kind of what's going on in the industry. one of the benefits of that, a lot of the times when we do these kinds of things, Joe, you participate in different organizations and I do as well. And, sitting on boards in different capacities, you have to take a step back and say, okay, this is taking time away from the business.
Yeah.
And so I always have to evaluate, and I know you do the same thing of, is this beneficial to our company or not? Because if it's not, if it's not adding that value, if it's not beneficial, then honestly, we probably shouldn't be doing it.
Right.
And so, with iMark and iMark Plumbing, I've always, take a step back and ask that. And it has been extremely beneficial in my mind to be on these, because not only are you hearing what's, participating in the negotiations, but you're also hearing what's going on in the industry.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of times that I come back to our group and say, okay, hey, this is the word on the street of what's going to happen with XYZ vendor or this, or this. And sometimes we already know about it, but there's a lot of times we don't know about it. And so it kind of gives us a little bit of an advantage to know what's coming down the pipe with everything. So it's been super beneficial. And then on top of that, like just the relationships and having them in our industry.
Yep.
There's so many good companies out there, and to be able to do that, just be able to network with them. And one of the cool things, we just barely got back with Blue Hawk. They had their annual meeting, and James Calver and I were there this past week, and we had Tony Clayton and Ash Rita out there as well. So shout out to them. We had a good time, but you're working, right? Yeah. They have like breakout groups, and you're peer to peer, and you're talking to them about best business practices, things like that. And we're in the grand scheme of things, we're probably one of the larger with our total revenue out there, larger businesses that is in our industry.
Privately held.
Yeah, privately held. Yeah. And what was interesting is I came back from that. I actually, from that group, we met for 3 hours, and I had 4 distinct things that I'm like, I need to look into this. Like, we need to be looking at that. And I actually walked out of that meeting, and I called Bruce Egbert up, and I said, hey, I got 2 things for you. Here's this, look into this. And I mean, it was pretty cool to be able to walk away from that and, just like, man, I learned something from that.
Yeah. I mean, you meet a lot of really smart people that are out there in the industry. And a lot of times we get kind of locked in to what our operations are, what our procedures are. And we don't necessarily fall in love with them, but we grow accustomed to them.
Yeah.
And one of our, commitments is we're committed to progressive change. So if something is going to help move our business forward, well, on behalf of all those families out there that are depending upon us to make those decisions, we're going to make a decision to, tighten up a process or change it for the better. And a lot of times we don't know that unless we have a peer in the industry who's tried it before.
Yeah.
Or tried a portion of it before, and then we take that and we make it something that fits our business. And I think a lot of the ideas that we've had over the years have either grown from that association with a buying group or a networking group, or we've shared it with somebody else and they've been able to implement it in their company, and then they come back and they're like, hey, we tried that. It's been so good for us. Also, add to that your association with the board really led us to the acquisition of the tap.
Yeah.
And that helped our business grow, by that much, and brought all those other families and owners into our company.
Yep. So shout out to Don Patry.
Yeah.
He was serving on the iMark Plumbing board with me as well, and that's where our relationship started. He did have a relationship with Brent Anderson because back, if you actually look at the history of iMark Plumbing and previous Omni, you look at, we had some great people that had served on that board. You had, Brent Anderson and Larry Skinner, things of that nature, that a lot of people, Larry Skinner, to this day, I still get people that come and ask me about Larry Skinner.
Bit of a legend out there.
Yeah, he is. And he was one that actually, from my understanding, when Omni was coming together, he was kind of one of the founders to get it going and getting the programs going. And, so shout out to Larry for that. We have a good reputation there because of these previous people, and hopefully I've been able to keep that on. I haven't diminished that, but no, back to, Don Patry. Don Patry was on there, and him and I, we got to know each other pretty well, and that's kind of where the talks started. And Don, I tell people this, when we sat on that board, Don's kind of a quiet guy, but when he would talk, like everybody would shut up.
Yeah.
And they just listen to what Don had to say, because this is a man that has so many years of experience in the industry. Just, I mean, great wisdom and experience and just understanding of a lot of the relationship with the vendors and what's going on. And anyways, he was a phenomenal force on that board. He just barely rolled off this past year, and actually is now retired from Mountainland, but he was had a huge impact on iMark Plumbing and our industry. So
yeah, I think beyond the personal relationships, which is probably, and I think in both of our opinions, that's kind of the biggest bang that we get from those from the group. Aside from that, it's also very monetarily lucrative for us. I mean, the rebates that we collect from iMark are large. Yeah,
so it's not so much now, but back in the day when I first started with Mountainland, I made this observation, and people understood it before I did this, but it was an aha moment for me, is the rebates that we would actually get back from Omni or iMark Plumbing was actually our whole profit for the year.
Yeah.
And so if we didn't have those rebates,
almost to the dollar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you're just like, holy cow. So that's why it was so important to be able to have that and have those rebates come back.
Yeah.
And, we work so hard on the iMark Plumbing side and on the Blue Hawk side, and our purchasing. I mean, they work so hard to get good prices and good rebates on on these products that we sell, that we need to be very cognizant of it and be protective of these. And we don't want to put them out on the street. We need to make sure that we keep them, because that's typically a lot of our profit. And I would tell you, even to this day, because we have also like Carrier that gives a claim rebate and stuff like that. If you actually add that all up, it's probably almost pretty close to the dollar. It might be actually a little bit more than the profit that we make this year. So if we don't have those things, then honestly, we wouldn't be profitable at all.
Right. The ability to be part of that group and to combine your purchases and your influence really is the only way that in the plumbing industry you're able to compete with some of the big box stores.
Yep.
And the large national conglomerates, like Ferguson or Hajoka or Hughes, without having that association with iMark, it really probably wouldn't make any sense to be in plumbing.
No. It would be probably an industry that we would get out of.
Right, because of that lack of profitability. But because we're a part of iMark and because we're a part of LPG, that really is the difference maker. And it makes it to actually be a smart move for us to be in that industry, because it can be profitable.
Still makes it worth our time to be in it.
Yeah.
Because, we're in so many different verticals, and we look at profitability by vertical, things of that nature. Because of the programs that we get through iMark Plumbing, it still makes plumbing relevant in our business.
Right.
If not, then we would probably, as a management team, we would have to consider getting out of it.
Or portions of it.
Oh, yeah. We would, exactly. There might be different product lines that we wouldn't sell, and honestly, then it's kind of a downward spiral from there. And so it would probably be, we'd have to probably get out of most of it. And, kudos and shout out to the staff over at iMark Plumbing. It's so much fun to be able to interact with them. You have, most of you aren't going to know him, but his name's John Aykroyd. That's over at the president of iMark Plumbing.
Yeah.
This is probably one of the, he's like a genius in my mind.
He's one of the smartest people in the industry.
Oh my gosh. And he came into this group, and he has just taken it by leaps and bounds to different levels.
Yeah, he revolutionized it.
He has. And you sit down and talk with this guy, and he has so much going on in his head. He is a true visionary.
Yeah.
I mean, he is thinking about what about this, what about this, what about this. And what's really cool is you really get a sense of he's trying to make my business better.
Yeah.
And it's because I'm a member of this group, and he wants me to be successful.
He's a true advocate for us.
He is. And so anyways, every once in a while he pokes his head in around here. So if you ever see him, that's who he is.
Yeah.
Phenomenal guy, and he's usually decked out in all iMark stuff. And by the way, I got my iMark shirt from him.
Yeah,
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. My little pullover that I have today, but he's a phenomenal guy and one of the smartest guys I've met in the industry. And he has a whole crew behind him that do great jobs. Matt Ruse, Ted Havel, things of that nature. Scott Bardreau, just Bill Ward. I can name all of you, I think, but phenomenal group that just they really have our best interests out for it, and they go to bat for us, and they do a lot of the heavy lifting that goes on. So, kind of a back thing, you have programs with different vendors, and these are the guys that are negotiating and saying, look, we have combined X amount of purchases from you, vendor. This is what, how about this? And they do the hardball negotiations with them, and then they bring it to the board, and the board looks at that and says, okay, yeah, we're good. Or no, we want you to go back, or hey, we're going to take this vendor out of the group, which doesn't happen very often.
Right.
And there's been a lot of changes in the industry, the kind of the landscape of it. And so I think I'm all right saying this, but we had to kick our first vendor out that I can remember kicking out. I was like, oh, wow, that felt weird.
Yeah.
Like having to do that. But, there's just some changes in the program that we were protecting our members. And from the iMark Plumbing side, we represent about 650 distributors in that group. So, you got people that are just a mom and pop shop all the way up to, people like us that have 40 locations.
Yeah.
And so you're negotiating on this whole spectrum for people. And we said, hey, it's not good for our group.
Yeah.
We got to let you go. We got to sever this relationship, which that was kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
To do that. So, but anyways, phenomenal group that we have out there, phenomenal staff do it. And then on the Blue Hawk side, you have a whole nother different group out there, and they do the same thing. You got a Lance that's out there that runs that one with his group, Tony Bergs and Terry. And I mean, they're just a great group out there too. So shout out to them.
Yeah. So that's kind of what buying groups are in a nutshell. So if you guys hear about it, now you're a little bit more educated on it. And Brandon, thank you for serving on those boards, because that really helps our company move forward. So
and if you ever have any more questions or anything like that, feel free to reach out to us. Reach out to Joey and I. We, unfortunately or fortunately, we know a lot about what's going on with these groups.
Going there again next week.
Yeah, exactly. Next week we have one, and we get to go rub shoulders and learn more.
Yeah.
About what we can do.
In the booming metropolis of Branson, Missouri.
Yeah. I heard there's a lot of casinos out there, but we'll see.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, all you windshield wipers, for spending a little bit of time with us, and we'll catch you down the road.
Have a good one, guys.